Birthdays are supposed to be about celebration, laughter, and the people who love you most. Mine was nothing like that. The morning started quietly, just me sipping coffee in the kitchen, waiting for Rachel, my wife of 8 years, to walk in with maybe a smile or at least a happy birthday. Instead, she came down the stairs with a duffel bag slung over her shoulder and a cold look in her eyes. "I can't do this anymore, Daniel," she said flatly, dropping the words like they were a casual comment. "I don't love you, and I haven't for a long time." It felt like my chest cracked open. I stared at her, trying to understand if this was some sick joke. But it wasn't. She laid it all out right there, in the middle of my birthday morning. She'd been seeing someone else, she wanted out of the marriage, and she was leaving me for him. Her timing was deliberate. She could have said it the day before or the week after. But she chose my birthday, the one day meant to remind me that I mattered, to tear my world apart. I remember asking her one question, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why today? Why like this?" Rachel didn't flinch. "Because I don't care about your feelings anymore. This is my truth. You'll survive." She turned and walked out, leaving me with nothing but the sound of the front door slamming shut. That night, I sat alone in the house that used to be ours, surrounded by reminders of the life we'd built together. The untouched birthday cake sat on the counter, mocking me with its cheerful icing. Friends texted happy birthday messages, but I didn't respond. What was there to say? My wife had just humiliated me in the cruelest way possible. And the one person who was supposed to love me had shattered my heart on the day that should have felt like mine. But as I sat there in silence, something inside me shifted. Her cruelty had lit a fire I didn't know I had. If Rachel thought she could walk away so easily, carrying my dignity with her, she was wrong. I was done being her fool. The next morning, my birthday hangover of heartbreak turned into something sharper, resolve. And that was the beginning of my revenge. The day after my birthday, I woke up to a house that suddenly felt like a stranger's place. Every corner carried her fingerprints, yet the air was empty. For hours, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the wedding photo we'd hung years ago. Her smile in that picture looked genuine, but now I knew it was nothing more than a mask. The humiliation burned deeper than the heartbreak. She hadn't just left me, she had made a spectacle of my pain. Ending our marriage on my birthday wasn't coincidence. It was cruelty. And it hit me then. Rachel didn't just want to leave. She wanted me to break. But she underestimated me. I started thinking about the last few months, replaying every odd behavior she'd brushed off. The late nights at work. The way she suddenly cared more about her appearance. The secretive texts she guarded with her life. The pieces fit together too neatly now. She wasn't only cheating emotionally, she'd been living an entirely double life. I dug into her bank statements, something I'd never thought I'd have to do in my marriage. And there it was. Withdrawals I hadn't approved, charges that didn't make sense, money funneled into accounts I didn't recognize. Rachel had been bleeding our savings, my family's savings, while planning her exit strategy with him. I felt sick, but the sickness quickly hardened into focus. If she could be cold enough to betray me with another man, rob me blind, and then destroy me on my birthday, I could be colder. That afternoon, I met with a lawyer. I laid everything out, every transaction, every piece of evidence I'd found, every text she had accidentally left open one night. My lawyer's eyes narrowed as he flipped through the documents. "If you want to fight back, you have the upper hand," he told me. "She thinks she's walking away free. She's not." Walking out of that office, I felt lighter for the first time since Rachel had left. Revenge wasn't about screaming at her, or begging her to understand what she had done. It wasn't about trying to win her back. No, it was about letting her feel the weight of her choices. I didn't want to ruin her out of spite. I wanted her to face consequences. For the lies. For the betrayal. For stealing the best years of my life and throwing them away like trash. And so I built my plan carefully, step by step. She had ended our marriage on my birthday, the day that should have been mine. But the next day, and the days after that, were going to belong to me. The first step was silence. Rachel expected me to rage, to beg, maybe even to collapse without her. Instead, I vanished from her world. No calls, no messages, no confrontation. I let her believe she had won. And in that silence she grew careless. Through a private investigator my lawyer recommended, I confirmed what I already suspected. Rachel had moved in with her affair partner, a man named David. He wasn't just some fling. He was older, wealthier on the surface, and utterly convinced Rachel was his new prize. But what neither of them realized was that the life they thought they were building together was already crumbling, because I was quietly pulling out the foundation. I froze our joint accounts. I secured the deeds that were in my name. I redirected family savings back where it belonged. Every dollar she thought she had access to, I locked behind walls she couldn't scale. And then came the moment I'd been waiting for. Rachel had filed for divorce, assuming she'd walk away with half of everything we built. But when her lawyer sat across from mine in the courtroom, the truth unfolded like a blade. The financial evidence, the theft, the betrayal, the proof that she'd siphoned off money to support her affair. The judge's face was unreadable, but Rachel's expression told me everything. For the first time in months, I saw the mask slip. Shock. Fear. The realization that the man she had underestimated was now the one holding the cards. Instead of gaining half, she walked away with nothing. Worse, her theft meant she was now liable to repay what she'd taken. Her new life with David wasn't starting with wealth and freedom. It was starting with debt and shame. I thought that would be enough, but fate had more irony in store. Weeks later, word reached me that Rachel had given birth to David's child. A child she had sworn to me wasn't possible while we were married. She had built her betrayal around this lie. And now it stood screaming in her arms, a living reminder of the choices she made. And David? He wasn't the savior she imagined. The glamour of their affair couldn't survive the weight of real life. Sleepless nights, mounting bills, Rachel's legal troubles. They cracked the fantasy wide open. From what I heard, arguments filled the home that had once been her escape. David resented her, and Rachel, in her bitterness, began resenting him too. Meanwhile I rebuilt. Slowly, carefully, I put my life back together, piece by piece. Friends I thought I'd lost came back when they saw the truth. My family stood closer than ever. And through it all, I carried one quiet victory. She had wanted freedom, but what she gained was emptiness. She had wanted to destroy me, but the only life she ruined was her own. On the night of my next birthday, I sat alone with a glass of whiskey in my hand. The silence of the house didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt peaceful. Rachel had taken everything she thought would break me. But in the end, I was the one still standing. Stronger. Smarter. Free.